anyway. For those of you who haven't met me, my name is Boyd. I'm the product manager for home entertainment and content creation products at Yamaha Home Audio. I was just sort of the home audio guy, and now I look after some of the newer content creation, streaming mixers and game audio mixers and microphones and things like that as well that we're starting to bring out into the market too. So I'm kind of crossing over into that genre too. So yeah, been Yamaha over 10 years now, so quite a long time. So I've probably met a lot of you in the past. But today I'm going to talk to you about some of the products you see in front of you here, some of the newer RN models of network 2-channel receiver, and how we can integrate those with other music cast solutions that we have within our stable of products. Give you a few ideas on that, but first I'll run you through a couple of new models of RN that are just literally coming to market at the moment. The R-N800 here just arrived in the shop yesterday, but it's part of our first shipment, and there's another model, the R-N1000 as well. But what I want to kind of touch on for these products is how the humble hi-fi system is kind of evolving a little bit in terms of their use case in the home. So traditionally, a hi-fi product might be something that would be locked away in a study or a hi-fi room or a listening room or you know, other areas of the home. But a lot of the products we're trying to bring to market now are trying to refocus that and to make them more versatile and customized for the sort of the living room use. Which the benefit of that is no longer are you investing $5,000 in a 2-channel amplifier just for listening to music. You're going to get the same level of performance for a wider variety of sources, even in watching Netflix off a TV because it's got a HDMI ARC connection. So you add in a lot more value to that investment, but you also still have the tried and true architecture and design of a Yamaha hi-fi product that we've been doing for a very long time now. So you've got these products that have this sort of renowned hi-fi audio design, but then you've also got the flexibility and ease of access to network audio sources. You've got plenty of legacy inputs still to play with as well. We're not stripping them away where it's only a streaming device. You've still got a phono input with a high-quality phono circuit for a turntable. You've still got analog inputs for a CD player to connect into, but all combined into a single unit, so the customer isn't having to have an amplifier with a streaming box sitting next to it and another box all kind of sitting in space. You're combining everything into a one nice retro aesthetic of a 2-channel hi-fi amplifier, which is all then controlled by our MusicCast app, which has been in development since 2015. It's got sort of several versions of it have happened over the years. We had a big update in the middle of the year that got a complete refresh. So not only have you got a nice simple 2-channel hi-fi amplifier, but you can control it really easily from anywhere in the home as well using the MusicCast app. And then of course you can link any of the inputs of the R-N2000 or the R-N800 or any of these MusicCast products to any other MusicCast products that would be within the home. So again, you're not just locking the hi-fi listening into the living room where you would traditionally just have some passive speakers. You can link it through to an XDA QS or to a speaker in the kitchen or what have you. So again, just opening up the versatility and the use case for these products. So I've just kind of mapped out the three models we currently have available of the RNs, starting with the R-N2000, which launched earlier in the year. This is our sort of our flagship network receiver. Retails at $4,999. This is based off the architecture of one of our premium hi-fi amplifiers, the AS1200. So you've got the same build quality. It's using a toroidal transformer instead of an EL transformer. You're delivering sort of 90 watts a channel there. You've got 4 block capacitors, so you've got plenty of reserve power there, so it's going to react really quickly to the dynamics of the sound. You've got your proper sort of stereo separation of everything. If you sort of look down through the top of it there, you can see all the lovely components in there. It uses our mechanical ground concept, which is developed for our flagship products as well, where everything's bolted down, the feet are sort of bolted through and welded through to the chassis itself. Everything's nice and rigid. But also, on top of what you would find in an AS1200, you've got all the trimmings of the digital age as well. You've got a HDMI ARC input, so you can have this sitting under your telly, watch a concert on YouTube and feed that audio down through, and you play that through your hi-fi speakers. You've got AirPlay 2, you've got MusicCast, you've got digital optical inputs, you've got a sub pre-out. You've also got, on all three of these models, the R-N2000, 1000 and 800, you've also got our Y-Power room correction system. Now, this is using a calibration microphone. You plug it in, you can just control it via the little OLED panel on the front to start it. It's a different variation of the room correction, the Y-Power system you would find on an AV receiver. It's the same system in the basics of it, but it is only doing two things. It's basically controlling reflections. It has RSCs controlling the first reflections from reflective surfaces in the wall and cancelling those out. It's working out where, you know, how the speakers are in relation to your seating position, but also it is not applying an EQ curve to the speakers, which the Y-Power system would. You would have like flat or match the fronts or that kind of thing. It's not doing any of that, which is something which was when we tell people to put Y-Power into a hi-fi system, a lot of people would be against that because you've got lovely hi-fi speakers where you're not wanting to influence the EQ curve of those speakers and apply our own EQ curve. This version actually doesn't do anything to the EQ curve. It's not applying anything to the EQ curve. So for people who are concerned about that, it's really just doing the good stuff you want a correction system to do. So that's across all three models. So again, we first introduced that in the predecessor to the R-N800. The R-N803 was our first two-channel amplifier to introduce Y-Power room correction too. So, and again, all that is crammed into a traditional hi-fi product. So that's the R-N2000 at $5,000. Comes in black. You can see you've got the lovely VU meters on the front there, as well as, again, the modern touch of the little OLED displays that you can see sort of hidden down the bottom of the unit here itself. Put that on standby. But there we go. We got a little Yamaha logo kind of comes on. So again, for those who are wanting to use it like a traditional hi-fi system, you can turn that all off, put on pure direct mode, and it'll hide all that. But for those who are wanting to be able to sort of get some little control, for example, you know, select your DAB radio station because you've got DAB tuner in there. That'll come up on your display there on the front too. So again, a nice little modern touch. And even the R-N2000 again combines both of those with an OLED, and then you've also got the VU meters there too. So it comes in black, comes in silver, and that's what the back of it looks like. You've had this on the shop floor, so you probably had a little sticky beak at some point, but you've got lovely brass terminals cut from a single block of brass there for the speakers to connect to. You've got gold-plated terminals for your RCAs. You've got your HDMI input isolated sort of over off on the right there. DAB antenna, optical inputs, coax, and a phono circuit as well. Now these are the two new models which we announced a couple of months ago, and they've just started to come through with the R-N1000, which is on the water. That'll be here very soon, and then the R-N800 just came in yesterday. So brand new, hot off the press. So the differences with this one, these are mostly more so based off the architecture of some of our traditional top art two-channel amplifiers like the AS701, AS501, AS301. So it's using an EL transformer instead of toroidal, like what the R-N2000 is using. Less in terms of the block capacitors as well. So, but this is jumping down from 4999 down to 2299. So same sort of hi-fi concept. You're still retaining the HDMI input on the R-N1000. So you've still got HDMI input. You've still got the Y-Power calibration. You've still got AirPlay 2 and MusicCast. You've still got the USB DAC. The other difference on the R-N2000, I'll just jump back quickly. The R-N2000 is using a high quality DAC as well for doing the digital conversion. It's using the 9026 Pro, which is the same one used in our high-end Avantage AV receivers in the RX-A8, A6. So it's using that same high performance DAC. But again, you can then USB Type B, so you can just go in laptop in and run Tidal off a laptop or what have you, and do your proper masters that way. You can then, of course, link that USB input through MusicCast, any other MusicCast product. So back to the R-N1000. So yeah, 29999, 100 watts a channel, and using our top art layout system. So if you have a chance to look through the top of both of these units while they're out, you'll see the topography is a little bit different. But this is, again, at the top art is a tried and true thing we've been doing in our two-channel amplifiers for a very long time now. So it comes in black, comes in silver, and that's the back of the 1000. So like I said, you still get the HDMI input there. You've still got a couple of optical, you've got a coax, subwoofer pre-out. You've got a pre-out on this too as well, so just a left and right pre-out. So even if you wanted to run that out to just as a standard power amplifier of some sort to drive some speakers, you can do that as well. And then you've got the R-N800, which is this unit sitting here, which just came in. So in the purple, I've kind of highlighted some of the differences from the 800 versus the 1000, some of the sort of step down. The power's the same, the block capacitors are the same, but the sub chassis is different. So this is using a resin sub chassis. The R-N1000 has a sort of an extra metal plate across the bottom to help hold everything together and reinforce everything to prevent some extra vibration. This doesn't have the HDMI input, but it is stepping down to $16.99, and it doesn't have gold-plated terminals, and there's a couple of little components that are a little bit different as well. So sound-wise, the 1000 actually is a step up. I heard when I was in Japan back in July, we were doing ABs between them and listening, and there's definitely like a step up sonically, and difference is actually pretty apparent when you compare them together. But again, exceptional value for what you're paying, sort of $16.99 for. The predecessor to this, the R-N803D that we were released a couple of years ago, did very, very well. We weren't expecting that people, it was a little bit of ahead of its time. There wasn't a lot in terms of two-channel network receivers back then, so we weren't quite sure if two-channel fans were going to be as accepting of a network-based product as well, but I'm happy to say we were wrong, because the reception to that product was very, very strong. And this is basically the new version of it, but it's being given a facelift in terms of the aesthetics, pulling some of the design cues from what we brought through in the R-N2000 there. So, black comes in black again, comes in silver, and there's the back of the unit there. So you'll notice, like I said, no HDMI input for HDMI ARC. You do actually gain an extra digital coax input. So for someone wanting to hook up an extra DVD player or something like that uses a coax, you've got those options there too. Still has the USB-B type for doing your USB DAC, but the DAC is in the 800 and the 1000 is a step down from what's used in the R-N2000, so that is another difference as well. So here's just a little map of all the MusicCast products that are currently available. So I just wanted to highlight that, the MusicCast products since 2015, when we reintroduced a new version of MusicCast, they've been, dropping off as the products became discontinued, but there's some that have remained pretty consistent, and we're starting to grow back up again. So you've got your 6 models of AV receiver there, of course, ranging from your V4 up to your A8. You've got, soon you'll have 4 models of RN 2-channel amplifier, but I'm only talking about 3 of them today, but at the end of this month there'll be another one announced.
So back in the lower price scale of that one? Yeah.
Correct. So I just have the price points here. So that'll be at an $11.99 price point, and anyone been paying attention, you'll put most people to that price point. Most people will be able to probably work out what it was. It is replacing another older model that we used to have in the range. So you've got you'll have 4 solutions that basically cater to people who are moving towards a 2-channel solution for the living room or wanting to share audio throughout. You've still got the XDA QS and XDA amp, which I'm going to highlight some solutions on how you can kind of combine these things, and you can make some pretty compelling whole of home audio solutions just using a couple of products. And also we've now got the WX021s are back. They moved factory production, so they stopped production for a little while we changed over factories. They're actually now back as of about a month or 2 ago. And we've got some black that have just come back into stock of those, and there'll be some more white coming. There's another purple box there for another product that's been announced at the end of this month, which is something that's been coming for a little while now. It's pre-COVID it was going to be here, and then they've sort of things got sort of put on hold for a little bit, and that'll be coming out at a $9.99 price point, which is, it's not a bigger speaker it's not a bigger version of an 021 or anything like that. It's something a little bit different. Some of you have been around a while might know what it is anyway, but it's you'll find out at the end of the month. But it's again another pretty unique solution that's got MusicCast built into it, which we're pretty excited about. This is just a key for the next few slides where I've drawn up some diagrams just because I couldn't fit this on the slides themselves. So just keep in mind that red is linking via MusicCast through your network. Green is a wired passive speaker connection. Source is your source, and patch cables are when you're just doing little patches between products, essentially. So Now, correction, this one, which I should have made in the break, but basically this one here should actually be a patch lead because that's just an RCA going out of the Zone 2 pre-out of the RX-A6 into one of the inputs on an XDA amp. But what I'm sort of trying to highlight here is the fact that you can have an RX-A6 as sort of the center, the hub of your home system, running everything off that, and then you can run, you can link it via MusicCast to say an R-N1000, which is running some hi-fi passive speakers in a living space, and then that you can also link that, of course, through to a WX021 in the kitchen. But also from the Zone pre-out, you can have, say, music playing or what have you on the RX-A6, run that in the XDA amp, and then link each of the amplifiers of the XDA to be in different configurations. So you could have, say, 4 passive speakers in an alfresco area outside, and you could have 4 running in a pool area, all running off the Zone 2 input that you're running on the RX-A6 there, which is also then feeding through to an R-N1000 in a living space, driving some hi-fi passive speakers. And you could have an additional, speaker in the bedroom going at the same time as well, linking through the MusicCast. So just combining, three or so key MusicCast products there, and you're getting a lot of coverage throughout the home using the app. In terms of the inputs, so for example, you've got the R-N1000, where you've got the ability to select between, DAB radio, a turntable connected via the phono input, you've got your TV ARC connection, a laptop via USB, or music streaming. All of those, you could be piping those through. You could happily just be playing those to the passive speakers in your living room that you've got plugged in, and that could be it. That could be job done. But also, because of MusicCast, you can link that to a WX021 in the kitchen, but also you could link it to an XDA QS like the one sitting here, and then assign those zones to be driving some passive speakers, some indoor speakers, some in ceilings, where you've got some in the dining room, some in a hallway, that are playing the same music as your 2-channel hi-fi system in the living room. And then also, even if you've got a party or something happening, you could have, again, your outdoor speakers running with a garden and an alfresco area, so you've got a lovely hi-fi system running in the living room, and then you're also piping that same music throughout the home as well. So again, by adding these nice 2-channel solutions, you're really appealing to a new type of customer who wants to listen to hi-fi and share that same audio throughout the home as well. And then you could go even further again, where you might have something like the R-N2000 running, again, some passive speakers in the living space, and then running through to an XDA QS, which then uses patch leads to go into an XDA amp to drive a huge sort of whole home, 8-speaker in-ceiling system throughout the home. So you've got hi-fi running in the living room, you've got 8 speakers running throughout the home, and then because you've still got 3 extra zones available on your XDA QS, you can be, doing a discrete zone in the pool area, garden area, alfresco. So again, just by combining those sort of 3 products, for most houses, you're covering a huge area, all sharing the same music. And also, you're not sort of skimping on the quality of the music as well, because you've got a lovely hi-fi system playing in the living room too, or the main entertaining area. So I've kind of mapped out how that would actually look by combining the XDA QS and the XDA amp, just because showing you that looks, it looks good, but how would you actually achieve that? So, like I said, you pretend you've got your MusicCast link set from your R-N2000 through into the Zone 1 of your XDA QS here. You're then going out of the Zone 2 pre-out into amp number 1 of your XDA amp, and then you're using your little RCA binding clips here to link the out from amp 1 to amp 2, daisy chaining out from 2 to 3, 3 to 4, so on and so forth. And then you've just got each of your pairs of speakers going to amp 1, 2, 3, and 4. As simple as that. The good thing with this is because there's a hard connection, like a lot of the products that Mark will talk about, it's kind of idiot-proof as well. You're not going to have people coming along in an app and changing settings around and accidentally losing your links and things like that. As long as the only thing they have to worry about is, say, when they want to listen to everything through the whole home, is just go in from the R-N2000, go link to Zone 1 of the XDA QS. You could just call it like house zone or what have you, and Bob's your uncle. It'll then pipe that audio through to the XDA QS, and then because you've got your hard connection here, everything will just start working. They're not having to think about linking, okay, I'm going to link to here and here and here and here and here. It's just a simple solution of just linking to one to one thing. From here over to the XCA QS, job done. So again, just a really sort of simple solution, only combining 3 products, but I think like you probably agree for most houses that's more than enough. And it doesn't have to be houses. It can be, that could be in a venue, it could be in a restaurant. You know, some restaurants these days might be doing wanting to run a hi-fi system, hi-fi amplifier and some speakers. A lot of restaurants and things are now turning to using more legacy sources where they just want to put on a turntable and some vinyl and have that playing instead of streaming. They might want to have a nice, like a 2-channel system there with the VU meters ticking away with a little glow around them, but then also take that final audio that they're playing and send that through to a bunch of speakers throughout the whole venue or the restaurant as well. So really easy way to be able to achieve that. And that's it for everything I wanted to sort of show you today. I wanted to keep it nice and simple for you, and to sort of highlight some of the use cases with these newer products that are coming through into the market. So I hope that all makes sense. And yeah, any questions at all?
Does Yamaha have any plans to introduce like Roon support?
It's a good question. Like as far as like official Roon support, it's something we've requested and something's been looked at. I know they've done my counterparts overseas have done testing with Roon, and it tends to work with most of them. But as far as putting the official badge on there saying that it does it, nothing at the moment that I know of anyway. But there's definitely consideration about it. Yeah, it's definitely a popular thing. Again, for this kind of functionality, it's definitely a pretty popular request. So we've definitely fed that back to our head office for them to consider. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I was curious, we mentioned about those MusicCast speakers.
Yep.
They had that sort of new product. It wouldn't be the network speakers, active speakers. Is that the new
No,
product?
no, it's
Quite good, though.
yeah. No, not the NXN, not a replacement for the NXNs. It's in the price point of that. It's more akin to say the TSX lifestyle system.
Okay.
Let's just say that. So it's more akin to that kind of thing.
Will you ever bring those back in?
Stay tuned.
Okay.
Yeah. Not this year.
Okay.
Yeah. Or maybe not next year, but there's powered speakers and things would be a nice thing to have. That's for sure.
And what about soundbars? What opportunities soundbars?
Good question. I knew that one was coming. Yeah, that's one of the soundbar with MusicCast is one of the obvious gaps in the MusicCast ecosystem at the moment. Again, we're very sort of aware of that. It's a price point thing. Like a lot of our soundbars have been in lower price points, even though we're now about to launch the True X system, the SRX50, which will be sort of coming out. It'll be here probably next week. That doesn't have MusicCast in it. It has AirPlay 2, it has Tidal Connect and Spotify Connect, but no MusicCast. There will probably be something in the future, though. I'd have to imagine, but nothing this year that I can confirm.
Yeah, I spoke, Mark. There's no way you can link it together, can you?
No, that soundbar.
Like an XDA,
Yeah.
to use it.
AirPlay 2, it's possible. Like if with that, AirPlay 2 has its own multi-room system built into it, so you can within the iOS ecosystem you can link anything that has AirPlay 2.
Right.
So like the soundbar, the SRX50 that's coming out, it's got AirPlay 2. So you've got say an R-N2000. If you go into iOS instead of the MusicCast app, then basically you can use AirPlay's system to link them together. But yeah, not through MusicCast.
So with those ones, you'd effectively have to have MusicCast on the amplifier, have that amplifier connected to the soundbar, and that's really the only way to get MusicCast running, or would it be?
The soundbar doesn't have inputs to really use for that function. You could probably daisy chain HDMI and do it. Like you'd have to go HDMI in, HDMI out kind of thing, because it does have HDMI in, but there isn't like an analog input where you could go like line out of the amp into the soundbar per se. So yeah, really that soundbar is more so designed to be like a standalone system for people who are using AirPlay and Bluetooth and also just using it as a soundbar.
Okay.
Cool. Other questions, please shout. If you think of any questions later on, of course, fire them through to Dave and whatnot, and he'll hit us up and let us know. But hopefully that was some good information for you on a Friday morning, I guess. Yeah, you can reach out to us anytime with any questions and things that you have. But keep an eye out for, like I said, R-N800 just showed up. R-N1000s will be here pretty soon for those who want something a little bit of a step up, has the HDMI input, but aren't jumping all the way up to the 5K price point.
And the
Yeah.
WX021s are in, though.
Yeah, I just checked before. We've got some black have just come in. The whites we're out of stock of, but we had sort of small shipments come in as they're sort of firing the factory up again to get those going. The amount we've had coming through has been sort of small, and then that'll start to kind of grow in that. But if you definitely have need for them and want to start putting them into projects and things, let Dave know so he can let us know to order them when we're doing our PSI process to make sure we've got stock for you. Yeah. Oh, thank you, everybody. I'll pass you over to Mark Lappy Lapthorn to run you through some other things.
Alrighty, so I'm Mark, for those of you that don't know me, the product manager for commercial audio and technical specialist. So today I just wanted to talk to you quickly about some potentially common questions that you guys might get asked a lot for really simple installed sound systems. So small commercial things like cafes and retail stores, restaurants, that type of thing. All based around our MAPA series. So we've got 4 models in this range. They're all compact, either mixer amplifiers or a power amplifier, and pretty versatile type of units that you can deploy in really interesting and diverse situations. So we're going to start off with the smallest in the range, which is our MA2030A. So you guys have had this on range for a while and sold it really well historically, so probably more of a reigniting of this model. So $670 retail, but really good for small single zone type of applications for, like I said, commercial things, so like cafes, particularly for this, and small clothing stores, that type of thing. So this guy's got 2 microphone inputs, 3 stereo inputs with an overall tone control. So you get bass and treble for your sort of basic sound sculpting on this. So 2 by 30 watts into low impedance load, so it will do 3, 4 or 8 ohm loads. So if you're just doing a couple of pairs or even a few pairs of 8 ohm speakers, you can actually run these happily at 3 ohm. They're happy to do that. Or you can do a single 60 watt 100 volt system. So they are set up to run Yamaha speakers, obviously. So they've got built-in corrective EQ for the Yamaha speakers, which is easy to select from surface or ceiling mount. And then you've also got external control via our wall plate controller, so DCP1V4S, which again you guys have had on range for a while. They are a half rack size unit, so they do have a rack mount kit available for them, and that actually allows you to support single mounting or side-by-side mounting of multiple units as well. So when I talk about easy setup, we can see here, this is a label that's actually affixed to the top of the panel on all of the units, and that gives you the information about all the settings you might need to adjust on one of these units, and that's done with these switches down the bottom here. So you can choose your speaker output from either 100 or low impedance setups just by that switch. And then referring to your top panel, you can adjust the other 8 dip switches to make the settings that you might need. So there's no software, there's no computers involved. You can literally do it with a screwdriver on site as you need it. And the fact that you don't need to pull out the manual to figure out what the settings are because it's stuck there right on the top makes it really simple. So not having to dig through the box, or if you've already thrown the box out and you don't have the manual anymore, this saves you from having to dig through pages of that trying to find your settings. So again, just trying to keep everything as simple as possible when you're on site and you're pressed for time and you don't want to, anything to take any longer than it needs to. So again, keeping with the theme of making things simple to set up, the DCP1V4S, which is our little control panel, fits in a normal light box size hole in the wall. Again, all the settings for it are just via the dip switches on the actual panel itself. So it changes what the source selection buttons are going to do for you from the inputs that you might be using. So you get the single rotary control, which is always going to be your volume. And then depending on what sources you're using, you can set the panel up to do some of these little mics with the end of them. They actually let off a chime as you hit that button as it activates the microphone as well. So you might use those for announcements and things. Again, if you're doing retail type of store things where they might need to make an announcement because someone's lost their child, I don't know. That thing seems to happen regularly. So yeah, you get a little chime before your microphone kicks in. So again, try and keep everything as simple as possible. The only tool you're going to need to do any of this stuff's a little flat blade screwdriver to set all your dip switches. So really honing in on that quick, simple, easy to use type of thing. So this has a partner in crime, the PA2030, which is just the power amp version of the MA2030. So $540 retail on that. So as you can see from the front and the back panel, it's a bit more simplified. The main specs that count are all the same. So single line input, so you can expand it off the MA2030 if you want to run a couple more speakers and effectively add a second zone onto your system. But you've got the same power output. So 2x30 into all your low impedance loads and then 1x60 into your 100 volt. You've still got your built-in speaker EQ for your Yamaha speakers, and the rack mount kit works with these guys as well. So you can actually mount them side by side, but they can also be used standalone. I mean, it is just a little power amplifier, so whatever you want to plug into it. You've got your RCA terminals on the back, or you can use Phoenix plugs as well. Plug into it, and yeah, and it just works as a normal amp. So it's a good little solution for compact, small power requirement sound systems. So I mentioned they have a rack kit. That's what they look like in the rack. So side by side, they're each a half rack space, or you might want to put it on your bench in your cafe, because you might want to do that. So your MA2030 and PA2030 is those two guys there. So what we've done is we've put together basically a suggested pack that you can sell. So the MA2030 pack, you get an MA2030, you get 2 pairs of VXC4 speakers, and you can choose between either black or white finish. The DCP 1V4S, not the 4V4S, I should have changed that in the break too. So you get the single volume control 4-switch control panel, and buying them as a pack, you get a bit of a deal on those. And then, as I said, if you wanted to expand in the future, you can easily add your PA2030 on top of it. So we put together a bit of a one-page explainer on these, but the really key part for me is this recommended settings part. I've included down the bottom a bit bigger so you can see it. I'm giving you an idea of what to set the amplifier and speakers to, and the panel to give you a really good starting point for how the system might work for you. So with that combination of equipment in 100 volt, all the speakers set to 15 watts, you're utilising all the power of your amplifier, and your panel's going to be on a good setting for most types of applications. So that's what the one-pager looks like. So you get some beauty shots in there, bit of the specs of the unit, the recommended settings in there, and some ideas of the types of applications that it might use. So you can see there, small office spaces, retail shops, cafes, or waiting rooms, those types of things where you just need a bit of background music and maybe some flexibility for being able to do microphone inputs and paging and that sort of stuff. So that's your MA2030 and its install pack. Moving on to its big brother, the MA2120. So it's a full rack space unit, and as you can see, a lot more inputs. It's a dual zone unit by itself, RRP of 1750. So with this guy, you can see on all of the inputs at the back, we've got these little switches here that are our routing switches. So it chooses between output A, output B, or both. So you can actually direct different sources to the A and B speaker outputs. And as you can see from the front panel, you've got individual control of both of those as well. So this one, we've got our 6 mic line inputs. So they're all on the back on those Phoenix connectors, with 5 and 6 having RCAs as well. And then another additional pair of line inputs on stereo RCA. You've got the tone control for both speaker A and B, so it's individual. So if you're using different speakers or they're in different kind of mounting situations, you can adjust for those individually. Much more powerful, 2x120 into low impedance or into 8 ohm, and then 100 into 3 or 4 ohms. So again, happy to run down into 3 ohms as well. And single zone 200 watt, or you can do 2 zones of 120 watt into 100 volt lines. So you've got the Yamaha speaker EQ built in, and the external wall control are available on these as well. These support all 3 models of the wall controllers. So we've got one with just 4 buttons, one that we saw before with the 1 volume control and the 4 buttons, and then one with 4 volume controls and 4 buttons. This guy supports all of them, and they all do different things depending on, again, what you set them up as. Same as before with the MA2030, we've got a sticker on the top panel. Got things available to you for what you might want to set. And again, it's just by the switches at the back. So get out your mini flat blade and have at it. So speakers A and B, again, are set individually. So you may have a situation where you might be running low impedance speakers for one thing, and then maybe you're running a subwoofer off speaker B. You can actually set those differently based on what their applications are. And again, you don't need to go hunting for manuals or pull out the box because it's right there on the top panel for you. So the DCP 4V4S is probably the most versatile controller to put with this guy. So you've got different configurations, again, as you did with the previous version, all set just by your panel ID, which is by dip switches again on the back. So get out your mini flat blade, change all your settings, plug everything in, power it all up, and you're ready to go. So laptop stays in the van. You don't need to worry about installing software or plugging cables into anything. You've got your rotary controllers can control volumes of your speakers and also your line outputs. So if you do happen to expand this out to a PA2120, you can actually control the signal that gets fed to it as well. So you can get 4-zone volume control from a single unit. Each MA2120 supports 2 control panels, so you can actually have multiple panels off the one unit. And then another interesting fact is that the PA2120 actually supports the control panels as well. So you'll see that little DCP port on the back there. So 1460 for this guy as a power amp. Again, you can see it looks very similar to the MA2120. Single line input, so that comes off whatever source you've got, and in this situation, most likely an MA2120. Same power again, 2x120 into 8 ohms or 100 into 3 or 4 ohms, and then 1x200 into 100 volt or 2x120. Still has the built-in speaker EQ as well. And again, like the PA2030 can be used standalone quite happily. And that, yeah, DCP wall controller's an important one because you can actually have this in a rack with a DCP in another area so that, you know, if you've got a restaurant, maybe it's got a private dining area, you can turn that zone up or down or pick its source separately from everyone else. So again, we put together a little pack for this. So you get an MA2120, 2 pairs of VXE6 speakers in either black or white, the 4V4S control panel, you get a pack price on all of that. And again, you can expand it easily off into the future with the PA2120. Recommended settings again for what, you know, I think will cover 90% of use cases. And again, a little bit of a one-pager on what it is and what type of applications you might use it for. So yeah, larger retail stores, restaurants, things like that is where this guy really shines. So the other critical part of, I guess, recommending install sound systems to people is they come up and they say, oh, I've got a space that's so big by so big. What's going to cover it? We've actually got this handy little program, acronymed down to CISSCA, which is our Commercial Installation Solutions Speaker Calculator, which both of them are a mouthful, but a really handy little tool. So it allows you to do a quick speaker simulation of the space. So it'll give you a coverage map for your target application and let you know how many speakers and what wattage you kind of need to set them to really quickly for a particular space, and it gives you a nice little report at the end if you need to go back to a customer and say, well, you know, I said you needed 8 speakers and this is why. If you want to hit this level, you know, these are the calculations that we've done to say that we need to do that. So I'm going to give you a little demo of what that might look like. So we're going to make up our, I closed the program, didn't I? Going to make up a little venue. I'm going to do a bigger one this time. So we're still doing our, we've got a big cafe this time, an RPG cafe, where the coffee is good. So you can put memos in there, you can give the project a name, you might put the dimensions of the space that you're going to put in there, and this is all included in the report at the end. So put whatever relevant information you need in there. We're doing advanced mode because we're professionals. So we're going to hit start here, and the first thing it's going to ask us to do is put the dimensions of our space in. So we're going to do 20 by 30. I'm going to do a nice big space. It's got 4-metre ceilings, and everyone's going to be standing up because we don't have any tables. So X, Y, and Z, just room dimensions, and then E is our listener height. So standard for standing people is 1.5 metres. The standard for seating is 1.2. So we put 1.5 in there because we're all standing up. We go next, and it says choose your speaker. I'm going to go with the VXC6s, and we're going to run them in high impedance mode, so 100 volt. We're not doing any surface mount speakers or subwoofers, but if we wanted to, we could add those in as well. So you've just a drop down list of your Yamaha options for your speakers there. Go to the next page, And here we've got our application. So this is set to foreground music and speech. We're going to go medium background music. So our target is 76 decibels there. And we go next. So edge to edge, so that's a pretty high density. We're going to go 2 times edge to edge. Okay, so that's spacing our speakers out based on that space with a bit of a gap in our overlap. So you can choose what kind of overlap you want. You can also choose what type of pattern you want. And when we go to our next page, we can actually move them around as well. So hexagon looks good to me in this one actually. We're going to go with hexagon. At a 2 times edge to edge. So I'll just give you a quick show of that. If we do maximum overlap, so there's no gaps in anything, you can see that it's going to put a heap of speakers in there. That's probably going to give us a huge overabundance of sound. We don't need that. Minimum overlap is where we've got the least amount of gaps in our coverage. We can go edge to edge, which just puts the coverage all one on top of each other. 1.4, so it gives us a bit of extra space, and 2 times. Spreads them out quite a bit further. So you can almost use that as like a budget scale. If they've got a high budget and they want lots of SPL, you can go with a really tight configuration. But if they've got a big space and a low budget and they don't need much sound, you can go all the way out to 2 times. So when we go next, we've actually got the opportunity to start moving our speakers around. So maybe there's a wall here and we can't fit a speaker there. We can actually start moving them around as well. So we can adjust them, or we can actually delete them as well. So maybe that's, getting into the kitchen. We'll get rid of that guy and then we'll move this guy up here to fill the space a little bit. So we can do some customization. We don't have to leave it with the amount of speakers it gave us. That's just basically the maximum it can fit in that space for you. You can actually put in a floor plan as well. So if you've got an image of the space, you can drop that in so you can position everything relevant to where it might be in the real world, so you can get more accurate application data. And then when we hit display, we can see here we've got heaps of levels. So we're 99% over 82 dB, so we don't need anywhere near that amount of power. Let's pull it down. So I'll go down to, we can even go lower than that. We can go 7.5 watts on all of our speakers. Gets us roughly around, high 70s with a little bit in the mid 70s. So that's going to do our spot amply for that application. So again, our target was 76 dB, which we've got here. We've got some headroom above that. That's perfect. So we size our amplifier now based on that many speakers at 7.5 watts, and we're good to go. So if I hit my report now, it's going to generate me a PDF with all of this information in it. You can untick the ones you don't need, but I'm going to do this one. We give it a name. So this is our RPG Cafe. And then once that's generated my report, I can actually go in, open that up, and that's what it gives us. So again, it tells you your application, what your target is, the type of speakers you've chosen, how many there is. So we've got 12 in this at 7.5 watts, so we can now calculate our amplifier power that's required. And you can see the room dimensions on here as well with our speaker layout. And again, if there was a floor plan in there, you'd see where that would land in the real space. Your memos that we had from earlier. So the coffee's always good at the RPG Cafe. And here's our coverage maps. So we've got an overall SPL A-weighted, which is quite widely used. We've got a flat, so no SPL weighting. And then you've got a couple of bands as well, so low frequency and mid-band coverage maps as well, so you can see how evenly the system performs. So again, you can use this information to go back and say, well, no, if you want to hit these targets, this is the amount of speakers you need. It also gives you a really quick sanity check where if you think, I can probably do that with 6 speakers, and then you do this, you go, actually, we probably need at least 10 or maybe 12 to do it. So it's a good, quick, handy little tool that you can use to create not only reports that you can give to the end users, but also do some quick calculations for yourself. It's free, download from the Yamaha website. So just go into the software section on the website and download that, and you can start using it. So there's a lot you can do with it for a really quick guide to how many speakers and the positions that you might put it, and then you get the nice little coverage map as well. So that is all I had for you today. No, I don't want to save, and yes, I want to quit. So is there any questions on any of that?
With the MA2120, can you do low impedance on one zone and high impedance on the second zone?
Yep. Yeah, so speaker A and B outputs you can set independently. So I'll go back to that back panel. Oh, that's the PA. From current. Made it nice and big. Actually, that's probably not the one I wanted, is it? I think I wanted that one. So on here, so you've got amp setup. Actually, no. Turned myself into a liar. You can only do, because this is part of the setup. No, you can, sorry. So these 8 dip switches are referring to the speaker A and B ones, so speaker A and B. So the only time you can't do it is if you're running 1 by 200 because that's bridging the amplifier's output, sorry. So yeah, so you can choose between 120, 100 volt, 200, 100 volt, or then you've got 120 watts there. So that's per speaker output bank. So yeah.
Like internally you want to have low impedance for the quality, but outside you want to...
You might have a string of speakers. Yeah.
So you can do, perfect.
Yeah, so as long as you're only using the 120 watt, not the 200, because you can't do the 200 watts.
Okay.
Yeah, because that will only come out speaker output A. Yeah. Correct. Yeah, you could do that as well. Yeah.
And the wall plate, you said you can have 2 of them, so one for each.
2 of them per MA2120. Yep. Yeah, and they just connect with Cat6 cable in a daisy chain. So you just run into one and then out of one into the next one. Yeah. Yep.
And you can do it like a matrix, obviously, with different inputs to different zones.
Yeah, so you've got the option, that was on that previous slide. So that guy there, yeah. So you've got here the routing, so A and B or A or B. So that's per input pair. So you might have inputs 1 and 2 just going to A, inputs 2, 3 and 4 going to just B, and maybe 5 and 6 going to both. And then you just pick which ones, how much of each one you want in whatever area, and then that's your overall volume. So yeah, you've got individual input volumes, that's the mixer part of it, and then the overall volume on the output.
Yeah, right.
So yeah.
Just with CISSCA, is there a way to overlay the speaker locations with, say, like a drawing of the room or? In that square that you create, you can insert an image in that with a floor plan. Yeah. And then you'd be able to move.
Yeah, that's why the moving and deleting becomes more relevant then, and then you can see the coverage map follow the actual occupied areas. Yeah, 100%. Yep. Yeah, so it's a really nifty little tool and it's free, so yeah, you may as well download it and give it a try. So yeah. Anything else? Always good to do a Friday morning here, so it's nice. I like a nice close audience. So.
We kept the best group for last.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, thanks for that.